Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, Boulanger, and up next on the GM, State of the Ravens. Do me a quick favor as we get started, hit like. If it is your first time checking out the GM, hit subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so that you get updates when we upload new content. Let's talk about it. So, here we are, basically halfway through the season as we head into week number 9 against the Seattle Seahawks. What is the state of the Ravens? Are we still solid? Are we improving? Are we spinning in the mud? What are we? Well, as I begin to think about all things from game number 1 through game number 8, when you think about the highs and lows of this team, when you think about the good and bad of this team, when you think about the standouts and those other players who have not stepped up to the plate thus far, what you have is a team who is still learning to win. Now that may not make no sense, but here's what I mean by learning to win. Although we're 6-2, we definitely won more games than we lost for sure. But I think we're still learning to win. You know, there has been no game that has been convincing other than the Detroit game. Okay. Every game that we've played, the other 7, you can pick out inconsistencies, poor execution, maybe some inaccurate throws, drop passes, wrong routes, miscommunication, poor coaching decisions. And so I think we're still learning. And I'm not 100% sure if that's good or bad as we are midway through the season. But I guess we could say that could have been expected. Okay. Well, why could we have expected it? Well, this offense is 100% a new install. Although they tried to keep some elements of the run game left over from last year's season, it's still a brand new install. And basically, there was no preseason for this team. So if you consider that weeks 1, 2, and 3 of the regular season could have been considered the Ravens preseason, we essentially would just now be going into week number 6. Okay. And I think what we're going to begin to see, because we are still learning, and this essentially is week 6, if we count the first 3 weeks, hypothetically, of course, as preseason, I think we're going to begin to see an improved focus, an improved concentration, an improved game plan. Because I think we've seen every type of team up until this point that we needed to see, other than a team like the Miami Dolphins offensively and a team like maybe the San Francisco 49ers defensively. Okay. When we played Houston, for example, we didn't know what to expect from CJ Stroud. So, we did what we needed to do, got out with a win. When we played Cincinnati, we had an expectation that they would be the Bengals of old, but they in fact were not. Okay. When we go from Cincinnati to the Colts, we didn't know whether we was going to play Gardner Minshew or Anthony Richardson. We got Gardner Minshew. We messed around in that game and lost. Okay. We bounced back and, thumped the heads of the Cleveland Browns without what's that guy? Deshaun Watson. Then we stumbled in Pittsburgh. We got back on track in Tennessee, or in London against Tennessee. We dominated Detroit, and then we put up 31 points against a Cardinals team that is trying to figure out whether they're rebuilding, whether they're tanking or whatever, without, of course, their starting quarterback. So we've seen every kind of aspect. We've seen starters. We've seen teams who are supposed to be dominant offensively. We've seen teams who are supposed to be dominant defensively. And so I think that as we have faced all kinds of challenges, I think that the learning curve is now going to slow down for us, and I think we're going to begin to put into practice the things that we're good at. Okay, so let's start there. What are the Baltimore Ravens good at? Well, holistically this season, they've been excellent against the run. Now we have had some setbacks, a time or two, but holistically we've been good against the run. Okay, we have been really good against the pass. Okay, we have had an excellent blitz package where we've gotten to the quarterback and brought him to the ground. And so those are things we've been good at defensively. What have we been good at offensively? Well, if I had to pick out one thing offensively that we've been good at, it's going to be the screen game, specifically for the running backs. I think that I'm not going to highlight anything wide receiver, anything tight end, but the screen game as it pertains to the running backs has been really good. They've hit a lot of big plays. Okay. And so I think that we can continue to build upon that, right? And because our bye week isn't till later in the season, we can still work to improve on those things that we need to improve on. Well, what do we need to improve on defensively? Setting the edge. Time and time again, we've had trouble setting the edge and keeping running backs from getting out, um, outside of the defensive edge or the outside linebacker. Okay, we've had trouble with doing that. We've had a little bit of trouble of coming down with um, tip passes and potential interceptions. And I know that a couple of our secondary players, Geno Stone and Brandon Stevens, have interceptions, but there's been other tip passes and other passes we've got our hands on that we've had some trouble, coming up with the interception. So we've had a little trouble in that. And other than that, defensively, I think we've been pretty solid with some question marks with who's actually going to come back for us. Is Tyus Bowser actually going to come back? Is David Ajabo going to come back? What's that going to look like? What is Marcus Williams going to be when he comes back? Because he's back in practice now. So those are the good and bads of defense. Offensively, oh my goodness, we've had some trouble being consistent in both the run game and the pass game. I think a little bit of that has been play calling. I think that when the run game is going well, we'll abandon the run and jump back to the pass. When the pass game is going well, we'll jump out of the run and go, we'll jump out of the pass and go back to the run. So I think that it's going to be Todd Monken learning the flow of the game with this offensive skill and talent, specifically. Because Lamar isn't a just traditional stand in the pocket quarterback, but he can do that for sure. And so I think Todd Monken is having a little bit of difficulty figuring out what to do with Lamar as a whole. Do I move him out of the pocket? Do I call plays where he can, improvise? And so I think a little bit of that is causing Todd Monken some trouble. But I also think that our offensive line not blocking consistently also gives Todd Monken some trouble with what type of plays to call. So I think we're going to still be learning how to offset poor blocking and things like that. They've been good at times, speaking of the offensive line, but they've been horrible at times, speaking of that same offensive line. So I think that we will have to, begin to determine what's best for us. I think that some things offensively we need to kill is those wide receiver screens. You've heard me talk about that many times. Let's stop the wide receiver screens to Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is such a dynamic player. His quickness is on another level. Allow that man to get out in routes and open up his uh his full skill set. You do him a disservice by just 4 or 5 times a game throwing him the ball within 1 or 2 yards of the line of scrimmage, hoping that he can make a guy miss. And although does he have that skill set? Yes, but too often it's been ineffective, right? So I think that that's something we have to improve on. Allow Zay to get into the route. He's an elite route runner. He has great hands. Allow him to use that skill, right? I mean, think about it. Last week against the Cardinals, he caught 5 balls for 19 yards. Are you kidding me? What that means is most of his catches was within 1 to 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. And so it's just really doing him a disservice. So I think that that has to improve. No, other offensive improvements is that I think that Lamar has to be more judicious with the ball. Not that he's put it in harm's way, but too often I think he's looking for Odell because he wants Odell to make a play, and Odell is not that same player. Can he make a play? Yes. But in times where we've seen Odell need to come up with a big catch and Lamar goes to him, it has not happened. So I think being more judicious means, you know what? I'm just going to put the ball into the player's hand who is open. Okay. Um, I would love to see, I think an area of improvement that I would like to see is getting the tight ends more involved, specifically in some 2 tight end sets where you allow Isaiah Likely to challenge the middle of the field and get into those open areas and set down for a catch. I think being able to use his skill set is going to be something that's going to be pivotal in this latter part of the season. So I even look for that to happen a little bit this week against Seattle. So those are the things I see we need to improve on. I think that as it pertains to the backfield, I think we have what we have: Gus, Justice, Keaton, and Melvin Gordon. I think that they need to go ahead and put Melvin Gordon onto the active roster. I don't know who will get cut or anything like that, but I think you need to go ahead and solidify all those guys and go ahead and kind of cement those guys in, simply because we don't know exactly what we're going to get from Keaton Mitchell. So you have to have that third back, especially with Gus and or Justice Hill having sometimes an injury history. So I think go ahead and solidify Melvin Gordon as part of this 53-man roster is going to be important. I think that one thing we could do when Keaton Mitchell is healthy, I think we can allow him to run some of those screens, because I think that the screen game to the running backs have been very, very effective, as I stated a little earlier. And then I think that we just need to be faster as an offense. I think that's the one improvement I was looking for coming into this season and have not seen it. I have not seen the Baltimore Ravens really get on the gas and get downhill on a team, right? And maybe they're saving that for the second half of the season. Maybe they didn't want to open up and show everything in the first half. And if that's the case, if that was their plan, their scheme, I'm okay with that, because we're 6-2 with just a regular traditional pace of game. So I would really like to see in more of an up-tempo game. Our offense is too fast. We have too much talent, in the context of speed and athleticism, to just have this trotting type of offense. All right. Let me jump into something else when it comes to State of the Ravens. I did make a post-game video from Sunday's game, simply because we kind of saw some of the same things we had been seeing. There was no point in me belaboring that point. There was enough people already talking about the Baltimore Ravens from that context. I did expect us to make some type of trade. We didn't. We stood pat. It's whatever. I thought we did need to make a trade. I thought at least at one of those positions where we needed a little more juice, I thought that they should have made a move, especially with the type of talent that moved on trade deadline day. Chase Young, a #1 overall pick, got moved for a third rounder. Montez Sweat, who has not lived up to hype, but that could be because he's been in Washington with all of that foolishness and turmoil that's been going on over there. He could just need a change of scenery. He got moved for either a second or a third Not sure what that was with Cleveland. I'm not sure why they would get rid of one of their top three receivers, but I don't care. I don't care if Cleveland falls on their face and don't win another game. It doesn't really matter to me. But didn't understand that move of Donovan Peoples-Jones. Let me see who else moved. And I think outside of those names, I don't think any big names moved. A lot of guys who had some rumors to move stayed put, but I thought that the Ravens could have and should have made a move at one of those positions that needed some pop, outside linebacker / edge rusher, running back, and or wide receiver. But we are what we are, and it is what it is. I think it's going to be okay. I would love to see them go ahead and grab Ndamukong Suh. He would probably be the only player on the Baltimore Ravens team who has a championship and who knows about how to win a championship. I think with his ability to press the pocket still, he's a big, strong guy. I think he could allow some of the edge rushers to get even more push and collapse the pocket even more. So I would love to. I know that there was a conversation that was had before the trade deadline a couple of weeks back, and so I would like to see them add him. And then other than that, man, just becoming more consistent, as I stated earlier. I think the Baltimore Ravens have a real chance in the last 9 games. I think at worst to go 5-4, but I think at the very best, probably 6-3. 6-3 gets us to 12-5, and 5-4 gets us to 11-6. I definitely like 12-5 a lot better. But I think that we have to tighten up the areas of consistency, and we have to win our home games. As we look from now to the rest of the season, Baltimore should have a pretty solid advantage in most games because a lot of their games are going to be at home. When you look at the Baltimore Ravens' early schedule, I think we played, forgive me if I'm incorrect, I think we played Cincinnati and Cincinnati. We played Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh. We played Cleveland and Cleveland. We played Tennessee and London, but that was considered an away game. And then we played the Cardinals in Arizona. So that's 5 road games out of the first 8. And so I think we should have, out of the last 9, I think we should have 5 or 6 home games. And even more favorable is that all 3 of our remaining division games are going to be in Baltimore. So we should have a decided advantage in that as it pertains to home field advantage, so on and so forth. And so so that's what I'm thinking, man. I think the Baltimore Ravens are in a solid position. I think that the learning curve is going to begin to slow down a little more. And I think that they will be able to put more of a consistent product on the field. So listen, let me know what you guys want me to know. I'm your guy, Boulanger. This is the GM, and we're out.